From game-changing functional prints that made me wish I got a 3D printer sooner, to useless or overhyped prints, here is everything I printed in my first year as a 3D printer owner. Each print, I'll be telling you whether I would print it again or whether I would pass. There's a lot of ground to cover. We're going to start with Maker World because I've had my A1 the longest and most of my prints are on there. But later, we're going to head over to my printables downloads to make sure that we don't miss anything. And we'll look at the print history on my Qidi Q2, which has been a phenomenal printer for engineering filaments. Now we're going to breeze through this first month, which was January of last year, because I've already made a video that goes into more detail of this first month, and you can check it out here. That's everything I printed in my first month. We're going to breeze through it so we can focus on the other things that I printed this year. So my first ever 3D print on my own 3D printer was this standard Gridfinity bin set. I didn't want to print a Benchy because I thought that was boring. I definitely would print Gridfinity again, and I have printed Gridfinity bins again, but I wouldn't use this. I'd use Gridfinity Extended. And the same applies to the Gridfinity base plate above it. I would, and I have printed lots of Gridfinity base plates, but I use the open source implementation of grips. So I'll link both of these down in the description below. Open source grips is great because you tell it the size of your drawers and it gives you interlocking Gridfinity base plates that fit in as snugly as you like. Poop bucket, this is fine and it's good. The only reason I've given it 4 stars here is because you have to print a lot of these like other things to make it work. So you have to print something that goes underneath the bucket and the printer. You see that in the next print, but together they're a very good system if you've got a poop chute and deflector. Let's whiz through even faster. I like this scraper, would print again. Spool removal tool, would print again. Gridfinity ruler, would print again. Wait for your plate to cool. I've warped mine. Filament meter. I was on the fence last time. I think actually I would not print again because over time you learn to tell at a glance how much filament is in there. I'm not convinced this is more accurate than the guide on the side of the spool. So actually I think I would pass on this if I was getting into 3D printing again. I don't find myself using it. Test model for transparent PETG. I printed 9 of these to try and get the best settings. I couldn't really see a difference, like none of my settings were more transparent than others really, but still would print again. It's nice to have this test object. It's nice to run these tests to learn about settings for yourself. Twist cloth clock. I would print this again, but in an opaque like PLA material, not in the translucent PETG that I used before. A1 Mini Gridfinity toolbox. I would print again. This is very nice. It takes up a lot of space, but it holds all of the important like tools and accessories that come with the A1 or A1 Mini, and it has room for other upgrades that you might get down the line, like additional nozzles, hardened steel nozzles, smaller nozzles, larger nozzles. Poop deflector. You need a deflector so that all the poop goes in the bucket. Would print again. These credit card sized measurement things, 100% would print again. Big storage basket system. I have dozens of these. I love them and I like the 2-tone effect. I print them in orange and white usually. Fast funnel. Definitely would print again. I'd print the medium, not the small. Lubricant oil nozzles, absolutely print again. Hex tray, absolutely print again. USB long cable winder stackable. This is one of my absolute favorite prints of this year. I have this microphone that I bought with a cable that's way too long. It's like 4 meters or something. And because of that, even though it's a good microphone, I dreaded using it. With this thing, it made it so easy to use. So absolutely would print again. It seems really handy for long charging cables, data cables like this microphone, very handy. But I've recently upgraded to this DJI Mic Mini. Let me know if you can tell a difference. Let me know what you think of the audio quality down below. This gets rid of the need for a cable in the first place. And I don't need like cables in the camera, ruining desk shots and stuff like that. Silica dryer spool insert. My only hesitation is that I found drying silica beads inside a filament dryer isn't optimal. So actually, I wouldn't print this again unless you needed a place to store your desiccant beads while you're waiting to like recharge them. It's a good like store of these beads, but I wouldn't recharge them inside a filament dryer. Tech Tongs 2 PET GCF Boogaloo. I love me some tongs, and I don't know why, but I have printed lots of these. They're in my like 2-hand tool pot that I reach for every day. I've printed them in PETG, in slightly stiff nylon, in even stiffer nylon, and I love these things. Wood print again. There's another Silica dryer spool insert. Oh yeah, the first one, the holes were too big. So for some reason, the beads that I get are like small and they fit through those holes. So I had to print it with smaller holes. I would print this if you needed this and you weren't sure the size of your beads. Splash vase. I would print this again, even though I only gave it 4 stars. I just thought like support removal was very annoying and I was super new to 3D printing. It's nice. It's not very functional as a vase because it's tiny. It's like this size. The picture has like, are those blades of grass, or are there things that are the size of blades of grass? But I printed this so that I could get some experience 3D printing liquid. I wanted to run my own fluid simulations and printing them. Ironing, recommended settings calibration test, 100%. Would print again. Do this before you print something with ironing enabled, because these settings make a huge difference. So like this printed 6, I believe, one without ironing, something like that. Some of them look like horrendous, some of them look really smooth. I also printed this in Silk PLA, and different settings had different surface finishes. So some of them stayed silky, some of them became matte. So 100% would print again. Beginner must print transparent aesthetic poop jar. This is a poop jar. Actually, I don't think I would print this again, just because I've printed 2, and both of them have had the bottom fall out to different degrees. So one of them just like completely opened up and all the poop fell on the floor. The other one felt more stable, but then like over time, I realized that the bottom is coming off just more subtly. So they're not very functional. Also, like I wanted to hold on to my poop with this vague hope that in the future I would find some way of recycling my PLA, but I don't see that in the immediate future. Like I don't see that on the horizon, if I'm being completely honest with myself. There are no companies that take PLA to recycle it for you. There's this one company on Kickstarter that is building a machine that fits in your workshop that recycles filament into like a filament spool, but people are very dubious about their claims. So as difficult as it is, I think you just have to throw away your poop. I hope that changes in the near future. Small modular multi-filament spool. I would print this again. It's very nice to have these mini spools that you can put like leftovers on, or you can put on your own filament that you print, and we'll get to that a bit later in the video to see why you might want to do that. So these fit inside existing reusable spools. These are specifically for bamboo reusable spools, but I'm not sure where else they work. And they take one spool and they allow you to divide it into either 2 mini spools or 3 very mini spools. Very handy. Credit card sized SD and micro SD card holder. This is one of my absolute favorite prints. It can hold 3 SD cards and I believe 5 additional micro SD cards. It allows you to fit these things in your wallet. Super organized, they stay in very securely. Definitely would print again and would recommend to any photographers or anyone shooting video. Travel soapbox. Would print again. Now I needed this when I put my Apple Watch in the washing machine. I tried drying it in my filament dryer afterwards. That didn't get enough moisture out and I was going traveling abroad. So I put my watch in this soap box. I took out the divider and I put in as much desiccant as I could and then left it to dry for over a week, maybe 10 days or something. And eventually the desiccant inside this box dried my watch enough that I can use it normally now, even though it looked really broken for a while. So definitely would print again, though I hope that your use case is different. Toothbrush travel case. I wouldn't print this again because the clasp snapped the first time I used it. The designer has a note saying like, yeah, I know it snaps or something, but they haven't fixed it. And I also printed mine PETG, which should be stronger and more flexible, so I thought it would be less likely to snap, but it still snapped. Flexi filament clip. So I've given this 3 stars, maybe that's harsh. The reason I rated it poorly is because the designer says you can dry filament with it in there, but you can't, it deforms. And it even deforms if you print it out of like a low creep material like PETG carbon fiber. So I've printed these in PETG carbon fiber. I've used them to clip filament in place. But if I ever put it in a filament dryer as I'm drying them, it takes on that shrunk shape and it becomes useless. It no longer springs and you need that spring to hold it in place. So actually, yeah, I wouldn't print this again. I'd print a different filament clip. Multicolor filament. This is where you can print your own filament. Definitely would print again. I've done this lots of time. I have a whole video on how to do this and the pitfalls. So the mistakes that I've made printing my own filament so that you don't make these same mistakes. So in that video, people tell me I didn't set it up very well. Basically, you might do this if you want to print a color that doesn't exist by mixing different colors, or you can make like bi-color filament where one side is one color, another side is one color. And it does this by printing a spiral. And it's ideal if you have a multi-material system because it automatically switches filament. And so the spiral is made up of different filament types. And then, yeah, you can take it off and put it onto a spool and print with it. I'll talk in more detail about it there, but that's basically how you do it, which I didn't say explicitly in the video. Ultimate filament spool enclosure. If you have the AMS light, I definitely would recommend some kind of enclosure. If this is you, I think you'll be making a choice between the Ultimate Filament Spool printed enclosure, which is what I printed first, and the Haworks enclosure that you can buy on Amazon. I have reviewed the Haworks enclosure and compared it with the printed enclosure with data and charts and then given my thoughts. You can watch that video there. But the printed enclosure, I would print again. It definitely has its uses for some people. But some people who don't like printing things, like this would be a 30-hour print or more. If you still want to enclose your AMS light, then you can buy this enclosure that just ships to you and it's already made. Bambu Lab spool weight silica gel for bamboo AMS. Definitely would print again. I've printed dozens of these. These are what I use to store desiccant inside my own dry boxes. So very handy. I keep making these, and I printed the one with small holes, 1mm holes, because my silica beads fell out of the default one. Now here, we're either past the first month or we're very close. So if you've seen that video, you can continue watching from here. There might be some very slight overlap because these are different print histories that I'm looking at, but it'll be very minimal. These are desiccant boxes for my Holy Grail tribute dry boxes. I've corrected the designer. I've commented saying it's not the Holy Grail, it's only a tribute, but they haven't changed the name. Since this, they've designed a cover for it, which is one of the only issues with this print, but I still definitely would print this again. This allows you to place a really good amount of desiccant in my dual spool dry box. Again, I say this in a lot of videos, but a huge thank you to everyone downloading and printing these. It's really nice and heartwarming to know that people are printing my boxes. I love seeing your prints in funky materials, and I love seeing what you have stored inside them. And recently I've noticed that it's not just this, like there is an ecosystem of little accessories and prints for them. So a huge thank you to those designers making those accessories and releasing them for the community. Would print again, and check out the lids. Door hook for 7 clothes hangers. Love this thing. Would print again. I printed mine in PETG carbon fiber because I'm worried about creep. I don't want my clothes to like deform this over time. I like this so much that I've printed 2 of them for the same door. You can put them side by side and you can fit like a lot of stuff, a lot of junk on the back of your door. So definitely would print again. AMS Light top mount. I like this thing. It's compatible with the AMS Light enclosure, and as far as I can tell, it's compatible with the Haworks commercial enclosure. There's something about like some issue with the original, like the official bamboo top mount adapter. So with this, there's no risk of like, I think the tool head might bump into the enclosure or something. This gets around that. A1 Z-axis stiffener. I wouldn't print this again. The idea is, oh, it makes your print quality better, but I don't buy that. I've thought about running a side-by-side experiment to see whether this like Z-axis stiffness helps print quality, whether top mounting your AMS light with lots of filament, does that affect print quality? But there's already a really good video on this, and it's called But Wait, There's More. I'll show it on screen and I'll link it in the description. A1 Mini time-lapse mod. So I remixed this. I would print my remix instead of this because it gets rid of the need to like put a screw in the back to hold the remote in place. The default remote falls out. Also the default pusher isn't long enough, so I made it a little bit longer and I made it springy so that it presses the button without pushing it too hard and maybe wrecking one of the components. But it's not bad at all. It's a great start. My modifications were quite minor. They did most of the work for this one. Dryer holder for desiccant bags. This is similar to the spool insert that holds loose silica, but this has little compartments and it holds the silica bags. And in theory, you can use that to dry these silica bags in a filament dryer or something. I wouldn't print this for the same reason I wouldn't print the loose silica holder. At least I wouldn't print them with the intention of drying in a filament dryer, especially if your dryer only goes up to like 65, 70 degrees. For the reasons outlined in this video, it is not the most effective drying method. So now we switch to a different screen recording. This is the print history from the printer itself. And I prefer this. This is more detailed because this has everything that the printer printed, even things that I sent from Bamboo Studio that were custom files and things. So it's not limited to just Maker World print profiles. And the first thing is this little stackable desk organizer. I like this thing. I would print again, and I have printed again. Watch my top 3D printed desk accessories video to see more about it and how it compares to other 3D printed desk accessories. The only gripe with this is that it's not as much room as you expect. So maybe if there was something similar but with more room for your junk, maybe that would be better for someone with a lot of junk like myself. Then we get into lots of Gridfinity base plates. This is made with the open source Grips implementation, which I've talked about before, and then Gridfinity Extended. That's how I love to do Gridfinity. Hygrometer stand round. I love that, have printed again and would print again. It's really handy to know the humidity in your room. These things allow you to slot in a hygrometer and see the humidity in your room at a glance. Filament sample card. So these things are quite nice. They have different thicknesses. They're a nice size. I think they come with a little Gridfinity even like holder to hold a lot of them. These days I print my own samples because when I print samples, I want them to slot in the front of my Holy Grail Tribute dry box. So I wouldn't print this again. But if you're not using my dry box, these are very good filament samples that print quickly and do the job very well. I believe they even have a slot, which is the perfect size for like thermal label printed like QR codes and labels. So you can print labels for your filament and stick them on, I believe. Now here are some iPhone cases that I printed for my sister. The first one I tried to print with TPU, but I hadn't quite got the hang of it yet, so it was a stringy mess. Also, this was TPU 85A, and the thing was way too like rubbery and soft. It was kind of useless as a phone case. So then I printed a simpler phone case in PLA and that worked better. Although I wouldn't print again actually because it's lacking protection above the charging point. So at the bottom of the screen, my sister said that one time she was taking her phone out and that part of her screen like hit a trouser metal buckle thing. And I hope it didn't like shatter the screen, but it like dented the phone. It did do some damage. So 3D printed phone cases are surprisingly good, but make sure they're protective enough. Then we get into the Lumix S9 like printable grip. I'm not sure. I don't use this because I didn't realize I needed to get a threaded insert and attach it to my camera from the bottom. In the past, I have been lazy about buying extra hardware. I should try this. I have nothing against it. Let's say would print again, because if you have an S9 and you're holding it a lot, the grip is uncomfortable. This does make it easier, but you need some additional hardware to make it work. And then we have a sleek passport case. Would print again. I like this thing. Put my passport in it. It has a pocket on the other side, which is a great size for boarding passes and things. My passport is pretty beat up, so this kind of protects it, prevents more damage. Would print again. And then the tilt phone stand, again, watch the desk upgrades video. I wouldn't print this one again, even though it's very good. You can adjust it, you can tighten it at any level you want. It's just a little bit over-engineered. There are much easier ways to have an adjustable phone stand, even if you don't want to buy any hardware, and we'll see them later in the video. or watch the desk video to see like a direct comparison between these multiple phone stands. I printed one of the screws for that tilt phone stand separately so I could print it in a different color. It is nice in dual tone if you do want that specific stand. Then we get to this customizable shelf set. Ooh, would print again, have printed again. It's nice. It's very simple and elegant. It's just a set of 3 shelves that go inside these little rails on either side. And the best thing about it is that it's customizable. The only thing to be mindful of is that the rails they go into have these little notches at regular intervals, meaning if you scale things up, as I did, the shelves that you print might not necessarily fit in the rails exactly where you want them. So just be very careful about that if you're customizing them. The one that comes already pre-built is too small to be super useful, so I would recommend customizing them. Just watch out for these notches on the rails. If you see me skipping something, it'll just be something that I've talked about before. As you can see, I'm printing lots of my Holy Grail Tribute dry box, and that's because I'm trying to improve the design, especially trying to optimize this transparency at the front, which is really difficult to get with FDM. But that is why one of my absolute favorite prints from my first year in 3D printing was actually this thing. Look how transparent that is, and look how transparent the entire thing is. So this wasn't actually printed by me, it was printed by this video sponsor, PCBWay. If you have a 3D print, which you really like, but you want to get it much more transparent and much more watertight than you can with FDM at home, I can't recommend PCBWay enough. They make it super simple to upload an STL, get an instant quote. I've been incredibly happy with both of the designs that they've printed for this channel, so check them out at the link in the description. These were early experiments in my wave vase journey. I had to make some changes to this design. I have printed again and I would print again. If you want this design, you don't want to worry about polishing it or making it watertight or getting it transparent. You can buy it from PCBWay that sponsored a different video with this in it. And I printed an SLA resin. It's incredibly transparent and watertight. You can buy it at the link in the description. You pay the same price that I paid with gift card, but I get a little kickback and it supports the channel, so I super appreciate it. And it makes a good present. I gave this SLA version to my sister for Christmas and she really liked it. Lots of my dry box, watch this video for the journey of how I built it. So next to one of these dry boxes, there's a little paper backdrop holder. So it's 2 bits of plastic that you put a sheet of paper in between and it holds it up as like a backdrop for product photography. I haven't used this yet, maybe I should, but it's kind of too small to be useful, except for the tiniest things. So I would print this again if I was taking product photos of tiny products, but otherwise you kind of need like a proper studio backdrop, which I'm investing in at the moment. Hopefully that should be ready soon. PETG temperature tower, I should print again, so I'll say I would print again, but I'm very lazy and print profiles these days are pretty good, like they're pretty well tuned to each brand. So Bamboo, PETG, I always print with, no problems, first time. I can even print in Bamboo PETG in my GDQ2, or at least I can for PETG translucent. So that prints in my GDQ2 with no problems if I tell it it's Shidi PETG translucent. I run into issues trying to print Bamboo PETG HF in my GDQ2. So maybe there I should do a temperature tower, maybe that would help me. So yeah, like there definitely are use cases for calibrating your filament. Drink can dispenser. I really wanted to believe in this thing for so many reasons. Maybe I misread a comment by the designer, but I could have sworn they said this works for UK-sized drinks cans, but it doesn't. It's also so nice because it prints in one plate, it's already assembled, but it didn't work for me. Like when the can comes out of the back, it twists and it messes it up. But I did find a better drinks can dispenser that actually fits UK cans, which we'll see later. Then we have some testing prints for my wave tool cup. So this kind of thing, I would print this again, and I have printed this again. It's nice that it's so flexible. You can just scale it up in the slicer, and because it's in vase mode, it'll have the same like thickness of walls and the same thickness of the base. Makes it handy for lots of different things. But for like desk organization, I think there are better options out there, or this can be used in conjunction with like other tool holders to hold tools more effectively. I'll talk about some of those briefly, but I'll talk about it in more detail for the top 3D printed desk upgrades video. Fluid phone stand. I like the idea of a fluid simulated phone stand where it holds your phone and it looks like fluid is dripping out of your phone and splashing everywhere. It doesn't look very good, like it needs a lot of work. I don't know if I have the time to like make this really work in real life. Yeah, I can't really rate it because there's not a profile that people can print publicly. Let's say would print again, but only once it's improved. And here I have some of the same wave tool pots, but tiny. I like those tiny wavy tool pots. They're very handy for holding like the little labels that come with bamboo reusable spools. So the things that say like PETG HF or whatever that you can stick on the spools, I keep those in this like tiny version of the pot, and some like of the tiny packets of lubricant. Although instead of those tiny packets, I have moved to an enormous super lube, which is much cheaper per mil. So this 120 hour monstrosity is a marble PLA bust of my dad. I would print this again because it was like small. I had to shrink it to fit on the bamboo plate. My dad really liked it, but he wants a life-sized model of his head in marble PLA. So once I figure out like dovetail joints, or if I get an enormous printer, I will be printing my dad again, life-sized. I've thought about doing a tutorial / funny video called how to 3D print your dad, in-depth tutorial, something like that. Let me know if you'd like to know how to scan someone's head, how to clean up the geometry slightly in Blender, and then how to 3D print it. PTFE removal tool, I wouldn't print this again. It doesn't really solve the problem without introducing other problems. I've talked about it in my like top A1 accessories video. Build plate caddy. I would print again. I should have printed this sooner. Even if you only have one spare build plate, and I would recommend having a spare build plate, these things make storing them so much easier. So yeah, definitely print this again. And then we have a specific camera battery holder for the batteries that fit inside this Lumix S9. I would print again. I printed it in PETG HF, which I thought would be strong. I thought it would be strong enough. The fact that PETG is a little bit flexible should mean that the like tabs on the side that you have to press, like it should make them stronger, but I've snapped one of those things, which is a shame. So maybe there's a better material for it. It seems like overkill to print this in nylon. Maybe the PETG HF wasn't dried, which made like the print quality worse. Like there were issues with the print quality. Yeah, I think I'll try printing it again anyway with dried PETG just to see, and hopefully it solves that problem. So this next thing is a little coffee pod holder for the original, the things that are compatible with Nespresso machines. Very good, definitely would print again. I've printed a second one. You will need some super glue to glue the two halves together, and I recommend Gorilla Super Glue Gel because it doesn't flow as well because it's thick, and in my experience it bonds PLA like weirdly quickly, even though a lot of people struggle with super gluing PLA. So next we have this thing called Bamboo Studio Joins V2. This was me trying to learn about dovetail joints by making a cube in the slicer and then using dovetail joints on it with different settings and different orientations to have a play. Let me know if you'd like me to release that file so you can print it and you can learn these same lessons yourself. Definitely would print again, and definitely will print other things in the future that are similar. So I might print other dovetail joints, I might print other snap fit joints and things like that just to learn these lessons. A1 nozzle wiper tray, I wouldn't print again because it didn't catch anything that came off the nozzle, and I had it there for multiple days and I did over 100 hours of printing and it didn't catch a single thing. There's another PTFE tube removal tool. I wouldn't print this thing either because I just don't like these tools. They create more problems than they solve. You have to figure out where to store this thing. It doesn't really make it much easier. It only makes it a little bit easier. It's still annoying. You still need 2 hands. I would pass on any PTFE tube removal tool. Tabletop modular shelf racks. I really like the idea of these. I did a very stupid thing where I printed the prime tower that overlapped with one of these and it fused with it. Then I lost one of the legs trying to take it off. I haven't printed more of these. I don't know if I will. I think I'll pass actually. Because they're modular, I think you can adjust these and make them a very good size that fits your needs exactly. You can attach them next to each other side by side. I believe you can stack them on top of each other as well, although I'm not sure. So a very capable system, but the default size for me was so weird. It was really tall and really tiny, which is so useless. I wanted a shelf to be lower and larger. So for the right person, it's definitely a good print, but if I'm printing shelves, I prefer the other modular system with the 3 more minimal things that just slot into those rails. 9x9 multi-board tiles. So I've printed lots of multi-board and I've printed lots of SCADIS. And I've been meaning to run this comparison between them to see what is the true wall mounting system to rule them all. I haven't run this comparison yet. So comment if you'd like to see that video. I'm not sure if anyone cares. Subscribe if you want to see it if and when I make it. But I can't comment at the moment. Wall organization is definitely good, but I can't comment on whether it's multi-board because I'm not sure if it's the best one. It might be the best one. And then the thing above it is just to help you store multi-board behind a door. And those things work, so I have hung these over a door. I just haven't put anything in them to properly test them. More tongs. So this is a different design. It's designed for PLA. It's perfectly good. I slightly prefer the thinner profile one that works really well with stiff filaments. The reason this is so tall is because it's designed for PLA, which isn't particularly stiff, and so you need more material to get a good stiff grip. But I prefer the stiffer version with a stiffer material, and you get a smaller tong that way as well. And then one of them, I was playing with dovetail joints. I cut it in half. I was able to make it enormous. It didn't fit on a build plate individually, but it fit because it was cut in half, and I printed it and it was comically enormous. I would print again. It's kind of funny and fun. So I might actually make this one again and maybe even bigger ones. Truss rod cover. This is a little design and print that I made for my cousin. It's better than it looks here because there's a modifier that engraves some kind of, or it looks like it engraves a signature into it. Would print this again. Let me know if you'd like this design of a truss rod cover, not with my cousin's signature, but just the base thing that you can print. That applies to a lot of these things. So if you see something here that I haven't released, maybe the enormous tongs that are cut in half, just comment down below. If there was interest in these things, I would release them. It's quite easy to do. Minimalistic cable organization clips. I like these. I would print again, but I think actually if you have TPU, the best way to 3D print cable organization is reusable zip ties. I love me some reusable zip ties. I've printed a lot and I find myself using them a lot. I find myself reaching them quite often. So the ribbed pencil cup I do like. It's one of the best things, if not the best thing, to print with dual tone filament. Shows off the dual tone effect really nicely, where one side is blue, let's say, and the other side is red, let's say. But they're not super functional. It's not very wide, so it doesn't fit many tools. It doesn't have dividers. So I would print, but it's more of an aesthetic thing if you like the look and not so much for the pure functional side of it. Now those AMS Light PTFE spacers, I printed those when I was experimenting with dual tone filament to try and get the best effect. My theory was, if I made the path of the filament straighter, I would get the dual effect better and it wouldn't flip around as much. It didn't really help. But if you like things to be neat, then I would recommend these. I would print this if I wanted the 4 PTFE tubes to just look neater coming off of the multi-material unit going to the tool head or the hub or whatever. Now that I say that, I might repurpose these for my Cheedy box going to the Q2's multi-material hub because it is kind of messy at the moment. These cabinet shelf organizers I like. They're really nice shelves. They're designed to have mugs underneath them and on top of them, I think, but they're actually a very functional size and shape. I've used them as monitor risers. They're one of my favorite monitor risers. Yeah, would print again. I have printed multiple. Build plate cleaner. Now this, the first time I saw it, seemed very wasteful. I thought, why would you print more filament? That's just going to become waste. Just to clean your build plate, you can just clean it yourself with washing up liquid and a sponge. But actually, I have ended up using it. There is some like dirt and stuff that's very hard to get rid of without this, but this gets rid of it really quickly. What this really helps with is if I've printed PETG carbon fiber, that often leaves like a little layer on the textured PEI, like it doesn't fully come off. But when I've printed this on top of it in PETG translucent, let's say, that has cleaned it really nicely. So would recommend it if you need to clean your build plate off some material that you just can't scrub out. Although, something else that works really well for cleaning your build plate is my Holy Grail Tribute dry box, because it prints kind of flat upwards. It does take up a big portion of the build plate, so it has this cleaning effect, but you get a functional print out of it as well. The only downside is, let's say you're trying to clean off some red PETG carbon fiber, some of that will fuse with your print, and so you might have these like red streaks in it. So I said earlier in the video that I've printed lots of these spool weights. So here you're going to see that. Soft tape measure spool. I love printing these little things that hold tape measures. I wouldn't recommend this specific one. I would use another one that also holds the tape measure from the top, feels more secure, like it's less likely to spill out. But actually there's an advantage of this one, which is that because it's so simple, you can put in almost any tape measure into it, so no matter the height, and it would still work. So yeah, I would print this if you have a very tall tape measure that doesn't fit in the other designs, or you like this design. It's still very functional. Oh, but it does creak. Maybe that's fixed with a drop of lube. I'm not sure. The other one doesn't creak, which we'll get to later. Then we have a demo pack, which I believe is a demo pack for multi-board. Yeah, it is. So this thing, I would print again. I haven't put these on my multi-board yet, but it's a great idea. You print this demo pack, you attach it to your multi-board because you're not sure what you might need and what you might not need. So yeah, great way to get into multi-board. I wish there was something similar for SCADIS. Maybe there is. I haven't looked for it yet. Let's see, that could be a good way to run this comparison between the two systems. So this tape measure storage thing is my preferred tape measure storage thing. It feels better built, it doesn't squeak as much even without oiling it, and it has a cover on the top, so the tape measure itself feels very secure inside. And the thing above is the drinks can dispenser that I would prefer. So it's much more complicated than the first one I printed. It's 4 plates instead of 1. You have to assemble it and super glue it together, but it's the right size for UK cans. And it looks better and it's more functional, so things fall down very smoothly. They never like twist. Very good, highly recommend this soft drinks can dispenser. Shelving keyhole hook. I don't like these. I wouldn't print these specific things again because they're not very secure. So even like if my shoulder brushes up against them, they might move up a little bit and fall off of the shelving keyholes. I found a better solution, which we'll get to later on printables. Keyhole shelf scraper holder. I'm not sure. So my shelves kind of protrude a little bit, so it's hard to put this on, like asymmetrical, one of the sides has to stick out. I don't see myself using it, like I put it in the corner, I don't put my scraper in there, so actually I wouldn't print this again. But I do need a better place for my scraper. It's just not going to be this, unfortunately. These are the keyhole hooks that I would print again. They're from Printables, so we'll see them later so you can find them yourself. And the Printables ones are much more secure. First, I thought they were designed badly, like I thought they wouldn't fit. They do fit on my shelves, you just have to pull them in quite hard, but that makes them secure, they don't fall out. Spool roller holder. So I'm experimenting with these kinds of things because I'm trying to incorporate a spool roller into my Holy Grail Tribute dry boxes, which should allow you to print from them. This one uses printed bearings, and I've never had great luck with printed bearings. And this entire time, like all of 2025, I was avoiding buying like proper 608 bearings. Recently, I've just bought some bearings. They're so much better than printed bearings, and it's like really easy to incorporate them into prints. So I wouldn't print this. I would print one that uses like real metal 608 bearings, a lot smoother in my experience. Harry Potter wands. These were a present to, I think she's a second cousin. I think that's what the relationship's called. And she loves Harry Potter, and she was visiting the UK. She really liked it. The tip got a little bit messed up because it prints it kind of diagonally. So the tip is floating in the air. I think it has to do that. Yeah, I think that's the only orientation to print it. It's only 2 hours and I printed this overnight. I would print again. I think I'll just run it slower. Surely slower will be more stable. Maybe the tip got messed up because I printed on my A1, this bed slinger, and if it's trying to move too quickly, maybe the tip like moves and vibrates a little bit. Would print again, just slow it down or try and play with the settings to get it more reliable. So filament samples, the ones on the bottom are the Holy Grail tribute samples. I think I've called them tribute to a tribute or something silly. I would print those again. Those are my go-to samples because I use my own dry box system. Favorite filament sample, it's another set of samples which I was printing when I was developing my samples to like experiment. I tried to get them interoperable, but I couldn't really get that to work. I would print my own because I use my boxes, and I'd recommend my own for anyone using my boxes. If you don't use my boxes, do your own research. There are lots of sample systems and they all have their pros and cons. Bistable gyro. So at the time, I didn't print many fidgets. I thought it was kind of silly, but they're very fun. Like some of them can be really fun. So there's bistable gyro, planetary gears. I think of the two, I prefer the planetary gears, but they're both like very fun in different ways. Both of them spin. So both of these fidgets would print again. Some Halloween decorations. So we moved house a couple of years ago, and then we had like 0 trick-or-treaters. But then this year, I had a theory that we were getting 0 trick-or-treaters because there's like no sign that we're celebrating Halloween or anything. So I printed some of these door like corner things. We put them outside the house, and then we had loads of trick-or-treaters. So if you want trick-or-treaters, putting up like just a tiny bit of decoration definitely helps. The earliest trick-or-treaters got a bag of goodies filled with these mini pumpkins, which I would also print again. They're stackable. They can be used as a sweet jar. You can print lids for them. Yeah, definitely would print again. So I'm printing tons of these filament clips, but actually I wouldn't print the flexible ones. I would print the ones that go on the side. So these things, which are also linked below in YouTube videos collection on MakerWorld. Door hook, you can see that I printed a second one. Very happy with both of them. So this is the phone holder that I would recommend. It's this thing. It's still adjustable. Prints in place, single plate. And it's not over-engineered, it's only as complicated as it has to be. Folds very small, certainly smaller than the big one with all of those gears and things. So definitely would print this again. The phone pillow. I wouldn't print this again just because it's enormous, but it is like, it's cool. I'm jealous that as a physics simulation person, I'm jealous that I didn't come up with this. It looks cool. If you like the idea of it, I would just print one of the smaller versions. There are things that hold your phone, but they don't take up all of that space. And again, watch my desk upgrades video to see like what this looks like in life size, how it compares to these other phone stands in a bit more detail. Vertical laptop stand. Would print this again if you use your laptop in clamshell mode, which I don't really. I tried to do it for a while, but I don't think it's for me. I like my laptop screen as a second monitor with only one external monitor. So because this video is titled Everything I Printed in My First Year, I will talk about these things, but I'm just going to gloss over them because I talk about them in more detail and compare them in my 3D printed desk accessories video. But there's this iPad Pro riser, which is similar to the vertical laptop stand. It's very good if I was going to use it like that, but I like my iPad on a desk actually, I think, where the keyboard is easier to access. Then I printed this modular desk shelf system. It's quite good. If you want a modular riser for your monitors, you want like shelves and you want to be able to mix and match, it's probably the best thing you can get. But for me, I've moved to monitor like arms, so my monitors are floating. I'd much rather have the desk space free so I can do whatever I want with it. Now this Asanoha Hex desk organizer, it's one of my favorite 3D printed things of all time. Definitely one of my favorite 3D printed desk accessories. Very good. The only improvement that you can make to that one, I think, is having a bigger one that fits even more stuff. And we'll see the big one that I use later on or in my desk accessories video. This is a kitchen sponge holder that my mum asked for in kitchen sponge colors. Very good, does the job. Wood print again. Clamp on desk bin, one of my favorite desk accessories, definitely wood print again. Then this is the wider Asanoha pen holder. This is the one that I use daily. It's on my desk, very good. Plenty of room for lots of tools and pens and things of that nature. Then we get the rest of the clamp on desk bin. I say more about it in the desk video. Flip calendar, watch my dedicated video on it to see how to assemble it. I really like this thing. Wood print again, even though it hasn't made the cut for like everyday desktop accessories. Infinity stationary holder, again, watch the desk video. It doesn't seem to hold a lot of stuff because there's a lot of like space in it. But if you just want to hold a few pens, it could be a very elegant and minimal way to hold them. For me personally, I wouldn't print it again, but there's a lot of personal taste in that. It's fully customizable IKEA thing. It's by a YouTuber who's very good and he's like new. I'll find his name and I'll link to him in the description. Would definitely print this again, and it's customizable. You can ask for it in any size or configuration. So I'm considering printing an enormous version of this to hold like a big 8-bay NAS. Crumpled paper bowl, it's more form than function. I wouldn't print it again, but it looks very cool, and so it could be for you. Silk cloth pot, I prefer a different pot that we'll see later on printables. Charcoal wood clock, it's a real shame. This is designed for the bamboo clock kit. It seems like they changed how they do the clock kit. So this used to work with the old one, but with the new clock kit, hands don't fit. So I wouldn't print this until the designer fixes that. You can actually use the hands that come with the clock kit, but it kind of clashes with the design. So I would recommend this with the hands, but only if and when the designer fixes it. Stackable storage box. It's a nice idea, but I don't use it daily. There are better storage systems in my opinion, so I wouldn't print that specific thing again, but it's very cool. It could be what you're looking for. Oh, broom with dustpan. I love this thing. It's very cute. It's kind of functional, but brushes printed in PLA with like bridges, they don't feel like normal brushes, like it is PLA after all. I still think I would print it again. It's fun and I use it and I don't have another dustpan and brush. Maybe you can print it with TPU. That's what some commenters say, but that could go horrendously wrong. Like I can't imagine TPU has very good bridging performance, which this kind of relies on. And I'm not sure if you want bristles to be rubbery either. It's fun. I would recommend it, but not if you have a dustpan and brush or if you don't want a like quite harsh, bristly brush. Office lawn cable organizer, great idea, but again, it is unfortunately form over function. It holds your gadgets within this like grass. It looks cool, but I wouldn't print it again. It's a hassle to actually use it to charge your gadgets, which is what it's designed for. Maker's beginner kit part holder. So this is for the Maker's Kit A, or one of these like kits that you get from Bamboo Lab that comes with some rubber bands and some ball bearings and lots of the things that you might need to build these beginners projects. I don't know, I'm in two minds. I think actually I wouldn't print it again because it's a lot of hassle to shove all of these parts into the box. And you end up with this thing that's like the same size as the boxes before, but in theory it's more organized, but it's a lot of hassle. And then one of the things that you get in this kit is some nylon thread. It can fit in that print in theory, but it was so much effort that I ended up giving up. And so one of my things isn't in there. And so it's ended up taking up more space than just the box with the raw things inside it. So it kind of defeats the purpose. And the second thing is the same idea. So Maker's Essential Kit Organizer, have they misspelled that? It's for the Ultimate Hardware Kit, which I got with Maker World points. But again, it's one of these kits. It's bigger, it's more expensive. It comes with more motors and like more advanced things, battery holders, more ball bearings. But again, like I'm not sure the whole point of it. This thing takes up way more space than just the hardware kit and the box that it comes in. So it's a shame, even though I've printed the entire thing, I spent like hours of printing on this. I've ended up just keeping this hardware stuff in the cardboard box that it came in. So wouldn't print again, but maybe you don't mind it taking up more space, but you want things to be easier to grab. In that case, feel free to print it. But as you can see there, these are the other parts to it that actually hold the components. And you can see each of these shelves is 10 hours. So the whole thing is like over a 30-hour print just to take up more space than the cardboard box. I'm going to stick with the cardboard box. This next thing is a very cute Christmas penguin that I absolutely would print again. And the very nice thing is that you don't need an AMS. You just print each color separately, then you assemble it later, so you get very little wasted filament, and it prints much quicker than a true like multicolor thing where there's multicolor in each layer. Definitely would print again. Christmas door corner, very fun, would print again. It kind of took the place of that Halloween decoration thing, but over the holiday season. Got some snowman in there, some candy canes, Christmas puddings, North Pole Christmas tree. It's got all of the Christmas, holiday season, greatest hits, fun little print. That's the actual grass for the lawn cable organizer, but as I said, unfortunately I wouldn't print it again. There's another Christmas door corner thing, which I would also print again. It's very fun. It's cute, it's got two like penguins that are friends. It's a shame we've lost this one. It kind of fell off the door corner and it's like in some bush somewhere. So make sure you secure these things well, especially if you're putting them outdoors. So these are the hands for that charcoal clock, but unfortunately they don't fit with the latest version of the clock kit from Bamboo. Then we have this thing right here. It's a fun little pointer. I've wanted to use it in videos for like pointing at things. It's kind of funny. Haven't had a chance to. I would print again. It like does the job. It extends a lot compared to its size when it's small, but it's actually a huge pain to print because it's made up of these concentric circles. Each one's very thin and very tall. So I had lots of problems with like bed adhesion. Some of these rings would fall off and it wouldn't print. I tried lots of things like increasing brim, but that doesn't really help because these circles that are between the biggest and the smallest have no room for a brim. What worked in the end was just a tiny bit of glue stick. Glue stick on the build plate, printed it, and Bob is your uncle. You can now point at things with this finger. I like it in dual tone. Yeah, would print again, just use some glue stick. And you can see just how many attempts I made at this thing. I'm glad I didn't give up though. The easy strand based, I might have butchered that, strand based. Love this thing. Incredibly easy to print, at least compared to the strand based table, which requires lots of tools and stuff. This needs no tools. It's pretty much all print in place. You just have to attach the legs. The only tip I would offer you is lubricate the joints as you're putting them on. I didn't lube it. I assembled the whole thing. Shock, it didn't work very well. Then I tried to apply oil to every single joint, but because it was already assembled, I had to apply oil like on the outside and then move it and hope the oil got inside. And it does move, but it's not as smooth as the designer claims. So the designer claims a table fan on low or medium will move this thing and it can walk by itself. Mine needed a room fan, so a bigger fan, and it had to be on high for it to work reliably. But that could be the fact that I haven't oiled it properly. Regardless, incredibly fun print. It's mind-blowing to see this thing like move and walk by itself just with some wind on it. So 100% would print this again. And I might even print a second one, oil it properly, and then see if it's even better. There's a stand for it as well. There's a vacuum adapter for the back of my Maker Z1. Would print this again. It's a shame the tiny part is designed for TPU And I was hoping it works in PLA anyway, but it doesn't. It has to be TPU. So yeah, just bear that in mind. You have to print the little adapter thing in TPU. So mine hasn't got much use because I haven't been able to attach it physically. Iris mechanism fidget. Love that fidget. Wood print again. It's very cool. Fidget knife. Oh, 100% wood print again. It feels like magic the first time you use it. Like it still feels like magic using it now. Print it in PLA. I tried to over-engineer it and I printed it in PPA-CF because I thought stiffer would work better or something. It didn't work. PLA does the trick. The comb thing isn't as good as the knife. Like the knife is more reliable. It's very fun, just do it. Mini watering can would also print that again. It's very fun. Use that to water the plants on my desk. Print in place planetary gear system. So this is like a whole series of fidgets. Again, I'm gonna gloss over these very quickly because I'm planning a whole video called like every fidget that I've ever printed or something like that. So subscribe if you're interested in that. Comment if you want to see it soon so I can expedite it because I'm not sure how good of an idea it is, but I'll still gloss over those same fidgets here. So planetary gear system, yep, it's nice. Wood print again. Really cool that it's print in place. That planter thing is very nice. Wood print again, but you have to assemble it. You have to glue these things on. Not a huge deal, still works. It's the insert, it's the liner. So it's not the like aesthetic thing on the outside. It just holds the soil and stuff inside, prevents overwatering. Does the job, wood print again. Then I tried to print separate hands in the hope that they would work with the new bamboo clock kit. These didn't either, so I wouldn't print these again. Flexi Christmas tree fidget. I love me a flexi fidget, so I would print that again. Fidget click flick swoosh. So that's like a multi fidget where you can do multiple things with it. It's okay, it's not my favorite. In general, I don't like the multi-fidgets. I prefer like one fidget that does one thing well. So let's say pass on that one for now. So this quad track fidget was very promising. It's a great idea, but there's just like no clearance between these rods and these holes they have to go into. So it's very hard to put them in. And then like just trying to force it, I broke one of them. Eventually I was able to attach the rest of it. So it still works. 3 out of the 4 are in, but I wouldn't print this one. It's just really frustrating to assemble. Parametric planetary gear thing. You can have too many planetary gears. So I wouldn't print like every single planetary gear thing that I've printed. It gets boring after a while, but this is a good option if you want something like that. Oh, Cyberprick official forklift kit. I've printed all of this stuff. Maybe I only printed enough for one of the 2 forklifts. Again, got this kit with Maker World points. I think I had to buy a gift card and then use the gift card on this. But I haven't assembled it yet, so I can't really comment. Let me know if you'd like to see me assembling this forklift kit. I want to assemble it with the view of like longer term, designing and printing and releasing my own like remote controlled little contraptions and toys and things. So I see this as like a stepping stone, like learning experience for getting better at designing physical things that move. Some accessories for this forklift kit, and then I think we're going to see a remote for it as well. Also can't comment on them. Oh, this thing, super lube applicator, definitely would print again. As I mentioned earlier, I've switched from the tiny lube packets that you get from Bamboo, and I've switched to this bigger super lube thing. This is a much better value long run because you get so much more for your money. You have to top it up so much less frequently, and this is a good accessory kit for it. Mini claw machine claw fidget, would print again. Someone in the comments figured out how to attach rubber bands to get it to close itself or to open itself or something. So attach some rubber bands, it becomes even more fun. Then we get into satisfying fabric. Now there's lots of fabrics. I have a favorite, but I don't think it's this. This is still like fun and it is satisfying. Like printed fabric is really cool, but I'll show you my favorite one later. It's one of these that call themselves NASA. So let's say for this one, pass, unless you want to print lots of different ones to see which one is the best. And then the 7-in-1 launchable fidget. Again, it tries to do too much, so I would pass, I think. I would just print like specific fidgets for specific things you want to do. Pin art fidget. This was a huge pain to put together. Subscribe for the fidget video if you want to learn about my experience and what went wrong and how I got it printed flawlessly the second time. But for now, I'll say I would print it again, but it's tricky. You might break some of these pins, so you might have a board that's missing some pins. Flexi Rexy is very fun. Would print again, definitely. 20 snowflakes. I had some bed adhesion issue with these, so a lot of them fell off the build plate. Even then, when I skipped those objects, like others fell off. And this is just like PLA on a textured PEI plate. Probably that was just user error. Maybe I needed to clean my build plate, but be careful with bed adhesion if you're going to print these. Christmas tree with stand. It's a very cute little desktop Christmas tree. I would print it again. It's cute. Spring cat is also cute. Would print again. Okay, flexi corn cob. The first time I printed this, I tried to separate the links and I just like ripped it almost in half. You have to lower the print temperature so that you get weaker layer adhesion and these things like pop off of each other more easily. I would print this again, but I would print it at this lower temperature. It's a shame that the print profile doesn't bake that in. Like print profiles like 3MFs on Bamboo Maker World can have print temperature surely. So I don't know why they haven't done that. I printed it a second time with lower temperature. I was more careful when breaking the things off. And the thing you end up with is like incredibly satisfying. It's one of the most satisfying like mechanisms that I've ever printed. There's this temperature tower for tuning the temperature for the corn cob. I printed it, but like none of those links separated for me. I ended up having to guess, and I believe I lowered the temperature by 10 degrees from default, whatever that makes it. Suspended filament vortex. Looks very cool. Would print it again if you want something like this, but it's very small, which is kind of the catch because it only takes like 1 hour, so there has to be a catch somewhere. It's only like this size. Would print again if you want this kind of thing. With these prints that rely on like bridging these long distances, it's almost impossible or very difficult to get them perfect. So some of those strings might not connect completely. So you have to be prepared to like remove some of these things to make it looking cleaner. But I did that and it looks great now. Zip top spinning top. I haven't had a chance to spin this, so I can't comment at the moment. Small square geometric fidget. I don't even remember printing this, so it can't have left a very strong impression on me. So let's say pass. I think if I loved it, I would have remembered it better, but I can't even remember what that is. I'll test it more thoroughly in the every fidget I printed video if I make it. Ooh. So NASA fabric. I think that's my favorite one. Yeah, that's my favorite. So it takes ages to print, 4 hours for a very tiny piece. But what I did was just copy and paste it in the slicer. I was very careful with like the positions, and I was able to print an enormous version of this in like 10 hours or longer. It is my favorite printed fabric. Very easy to print, nothing fuses together, and it's very fabric-y and soft. So very cool. Infinitely extendable printed fabric is a remarkable idea. So someone's come up with a way to 3D print. I don't know how it works. I haven't extended it myself. I've just printed one patch of it. But the idea is after you print one, you put it to the side of the printer or something and then continue printing, and they interlock with each other, which seems amazing. I will report back if I try to extend it. Now, I have some more prints here, which again, I can't comment on because I've printed these as tests for this hand boost ultrasonic cutter, which they very kindly sent me. So I'm planning a dedicated video where I talk about this thing and I put it through its paces. So I test it at cutting printed grass and bristles, at cutting these like kit cards, and see how that compares with like scissors or angle cutters or whatever else you might have used. Hairy Highland cow. I will test it on all of this stuff, but I haven't cut these things yet, so I haven't assembled them, so I can't comment on how good they are and whether I print them again or not. Book page holder, 100% would print again. It makes reading so much easier. and I like this one, V3. It's the only one I've printed, but it's so flexible, like you can have your thumb in almost any position and it keeps the whole book open. 100% recommend. And Kumiko Coaster, I would also print again, and that's for a special reason for me, which is that it's big, and it's big enough for my I'd rather be in bed mug. Very few coasters are big enough for this mug, but this Kumiko Coaster is. So this is my second attempt at that pin art fidget. It worked the second time, and as I said before, would print again, but it depends on if you're okay with maybe missing some of the pins. And then there's another grass desk organizer. I don't think I'd print this one either. The grass is like too tightly packed, I think. There's too much grass. And so I'm not sure like how easy it will be to organize stuff in it. It's also not very big, so it can't really fit many things. And because the grass is packed together so tightly, when I tried to cut the grass off with the Hand Boost ultrasonic cutter, it kind of fused some of the grass together. And so I had to do this other step of like unfusing the grass because it kind of clumped together. I'll talk about that more in the full Hand Boost video, but for now, I have to say I wouldn't print again. Again, it's more form over function. There are better ways to organize your desk. Flexi Corn Cob, this is probably the successful print. Would print it again. Hinged Banana, this thing is very fun, it's tiny. Oh, but it takes 2.5 hours. It's very fun. Would print it again. Cat poop recycling art decor. So again, this is me trying to like do something useful with poop. I don't know. It's nice, but the thing is like you produce so much poop. I mean, if you've made a big multicolor print, this won't even hold one print's poop. And so what you're gonna do, print a cat for every multi-color project you print. You're just gonna end up with a room full of cats with poop inside them. But one of them is nice. I would print again because it's a cool like 3D printing little accessory. It does something useful with your poop, but it's not like a solution to the poop problem. Pop Switch Fidget is very nice. I would print that again. There's this Predator grabber. It's fun. Would print again. Pasta Light Receiver. Would print again. I'm surprised I got this far, so I almost made it to the end of the year without needing a respooler, but I did need a respooler in the end. I've also filmed some like footage of using it and how I untangled this huge mess, so let me know down below if you'd like to see that. I know I'm asking that a lot, like tell me what you want to see, but the reason is like I'm always filming so much stuff, like I have tens of hours of footage, and it's actually really hard deciding like which one thing do I make a video on every week. So if you give me feedback on that, it's very helpful and it helps me make the things that are the most valuable to you and the most entertaining and the most interesting. Okay, shoehorn. It's nice. It's a printed shoehorn. It works. I would print it again. PETG gives it a little bit of flex. I wish it was thinner. It's kind of too thick and not flexible enough, even in PETG, but it does the trick. I use it, especially after I broke my old shoehorn. Big Robot Hand is very fun. It's just this little thing that like grabs. It's a toy, it's not a tool, but it's fun. I would print it again. Journal line stencil. So I printed this for my sister so she can make lines in this like notebook that doesn't have lines already. Problem is it's incredibly thin and so it's flexible. I would print it again, but I would open it up in a slicer. I'd increase the Z thickness to at least double, maybe like 3-4 times to get it more rigid, but I would print it again. Lightweight recycled box something. These are little plastic things that go on the insides of bamboo reusable spools. So you're left with this cardboard thing on the inside when you exhaust the spool, and these turn them into little usable, snackable boxes. I've printed it, but I haven't attached it to the spool yet, so I don't know. I like the idea of it for the same reason I like the idea of doing stuff with poop. It allows you to reuse something that otherwise would go to waste, so I'm all for the idea of it. If you want storage in this size, seems like a great idea, I would recommend it. Would print again, like at least to try it. I might print a few just to try it out as a whole system. Would print again. And then I think this is the last thing on MakerWorld. It's called Stackable Minimal Storage something. It's very nice. The designer uses AI generated pictures in the profile, which is a shame, but designed very well and it works, and I have printed again, so I would print again. Stacking is very nice. It's good for like storing this medium size of stuff where I don't want the enormous XL storage bin, but it's too big to go inside these like pots on my desk. Very handy, would print again. So let's move on to printables, where I go to my downloads and then I talk you through especially the ones that I printed. I haven't printed all of these. The first thing we've actually seen because I've printed it on my A1 with this storage shelf filament spool holder. This is the good one, so I definitely recommend this one. Have printed again. Printed like lots, like over 10 of them. Very handy, they're all in use. They're actually holding up those spools on the side. 100% would print again. My own dry box. Have printed again, would print again. I have lots of these. So I haven't printed this phone chair, but it's a fun idea. Then this first headset hanger 2.0, I haven't printed. I've printed this stairs planter, and I love it. It's my favorite planter. It's the one that I use, so definitely print again. Headset hanger 3.0, I did print. I like it, and I would print again. Then we get into this whole range of stuff that I printed in nylon when I was reviewing the Chidi Q2, and I wanted to be extra and print stuff in PPACF, or they call it PAHTCF as well. So all of this stuff is printed. It's more of a test of like, can I print nylon more so than for these specific objects. The hex screws, I was just impressed that you can print screws, but don't print screws, just buy them, I think. So I had some layer shift issues with these, so none of them printed well. That could be warping from the nylon before I figured out that I needed to manually enable chamber heating, even though it was first party filament. So it's up to you. Yeah, just buy screws, they'll be better. This thing, I wouldn't print again in nylon. It was much too stiff. It wasn't very good at holding stuff, but I can't really comment on other materials. Judging by the ratings, it's kind of mixed, so it's up to you. This motion inverter I thought would work very well in super stiff PPACF. Doesn't work very well, wouldn't print it again, at least not in PPACF. This thing works in PPACF, even though it's incredibly stiff. Sometimes compliant kind of mechanisms work better in super stiff materials, but sometimes it doesn't work, so it's hard to predict. Here, it's like, it's fine. I think the surface texture would be more comfortable in PLA, but would print again, it's fun. This door hinge, it's very well rated, so I'm not gonna bash it, but I wouldn't print it again in PPACF. Mine just fused together, so it's not usable as a hinge, but that's the material and potentially user error on top of that. This thing also fused together in PPACF, maybe it works in PLA. The ratings suggest that it does. So print in place spring-loaded box, I haven't printed this one. This is the Carvera vacuum adapter, is the thing we discussed already, where you have to print the small part in TPU. I would print again, I will print it in TPU to try it out, and hopefully that allows me to run my Makera Z1 and produce less dust in the chamber and less dust that pops out into the room. CNC clamp is actually a very good use of PPACF. I printed these in PPACF and they're usable as CNC clamps because it's so stiff and so strong, so would print again. I wish they had them in different sizes, like tiny ones. Sometimes I struggle attaching stuff where I don't have much room outside the, what's the build plate called of a CNC, but you know what I mean. I've also printed this other clamp, also good, but also I wish it was smaller or there was a smaller option. 7-segment digital counter. It's incredible, would print again, but I printed this in some carbon fiber nylon. I thought it would have these amazing self-lubricating properties and whatever, but something they don't warn you about with nylon is that it shrinks a little bit after printing. And so some of these parts don't fit together incredibly well, like some of them are really tight. I would print it again, but in a normal material like PLA is going to be fine for this. Then I went on this whole thing about trying to print Arca Swiss plates and clamps. This, I would print again, the plate, because it has to be incredibly stiff. I think it works with my tripod and with Arca Swiss, which is nice. This thing was too stiff in PPACF, which is a real shame. I thought it would benefit from stiffness and I thought it would make it clamp on really tight. I should print it again in PETG or something to see if it works. I printed this, but I've been too lazy to buy the required screws and things. I should try putting this together. I have these parts, but I haven't yet, so I can't comment on how good it is. 5-star rating though, gotta trust that. Now I printed this slat wall thing with the hopes of using it at work where we have these slat walls like in front of our desks. But I was hoping those slats are like universal, but they're not. So this fits in, but the size is wrong, and so it's like sticking up or sticking down or something. Before you print this, just like measure your slats and make sure it's designed for the exact ones, or modify it so that it does work normally. Fidget toggle switch. I think I printed this in PPACF, and I think it worked, but it was very stiff, and the texture of PPACF like isn't very comfortable. It's coarse, and maybe you're getting carbon fiber like embedded into your skin. I've like realized that recently. I heard it a long time ago, but I was hoping it was an urban myth, but I recently noticed I saw some carbon fiber in my hand, even with my bare eye. I don't think any of you are going to be printing this fidget in PPACF, but I just have to warn you about that. Yeah, just do it in PLA. I'm sure it's a nice fidget. Wood print again. Moon City is a really cool sculptural print. It's this like Arabic inspired city inside a crescent moon. They say you can print it without supports, and I printed it without supports, but I had some stuff on it fail, but it cleaned up very easily. There was this like one overhang thing that fell off. I just removed it and it looked like perfect. So wood print again, it's a cool little project. NASA chainmail. This is not as good as the NASA fabric that we saw earlier. That thing is more fabric-y. Here, some of the links are too close to each other, so you kind of have to force them. It's not as fluid and not as fabric-y. So that's everything on printables. The last thing is to go through the printing history on my Cheedy. Now I'm tired and I don't want to stand up and walk like 2 meters to show you on the screen of the Cheedy. Let's see if we can show you through this interface. So it looks like these are the files that come loaded on the printer. I didn't print the vast majority of them. The only one of these that I printed is the Kickstart torture test. I like that thing a lot. It tests everything. I wish I had done one like as soon as I got my A1. The Cheedy Q2 printed it incredibly well. I will be printing more, so I'll say like print again, but it's more useful if you're printing it on multiple printers so you can compare them. And it takes a bit of research, like there's so much packed into this test that like it's not straightforward to know how to assess it and how to read every single thing, but definitely would print again. I will be printing this again. The next thing that I printed on the Q2 are these parametric organizer bins. Very good, very easy to customize, definitely would print again. Then I printed a poop chute for my Q2. Yeah, it's this thing. If you wanted to print it, I would print a poop chute again, but this one is kind of loose on the back of the printer. When I had it on a small table, it was like always about to fall off. I had to keep nudging it. It fell off a couple of times. If I was going to print this again, I wouldn't do this one. So I'll say pass for this because I've seen other Cheedy poop chutes that attach to the back on these holes that are in the printer. So I'd pass on this one. And then this thing is so silly. So when I was comparing enclosures for the AMS light, I wanted to compare the Howarks enclosure with the printed, it's called the Ultimate AMS light enclosure, I think, or something like that. I wanted to test these off the AMS, but I still wanted those holes filled because otherwise like moisture would get in through that big hole at the back. So I printed these things that like pretend to be the AMS. They secure inside the AMS light. I say secure, they're very simple. They're just like cylinders on a circular base. I wouldn't print these again just because I don't see myself running that test again. Oh, Silica bead box. I wouldn't print that one again because I think it's designed for sachets or something, not loose beads because there are big holes in it. So it's not for me. Shoji lantern. So again, this is going to be in my desk 3D printed upgrades video. I would print it again if you like the design, but it's not for me. It hasn't made the cut onto like my desk. There's a lamp that I prefer, and this uses the bamboo LED light kit. 3 body problem is the light that I prefer. So definitely would print that, and I do use it, and that's where my light kit lives. The first attempt at printing that silica bead box must have failed. This must be a second attempt. I still wouldn't print it. It's not for me. This is the planter that we've seen from printables. Very good, would print again. This is just some lid for my Holy Grail Tribute dry box. Would print again, obviously. Oh, crates. I love these crates. These are from Maker World. They're very good. I've printed lots of them. Definitely would print again. What's so nice is that they're modular, they're customizable. So I haven't customized them yet, but you can do that. And they're stackable when they're open or when they're folded. So they fold down really small like this, and they still stack, or they stack when they're assembled. They stack better than that, like they stack properly. So really good. I've printed like 10 of these. I'm not using all of them, but definitely would print again. So there's another silica tray that I decided not to do. I canceled this like after I started printing. Can't remember why, but I'm very glad that I did that, because the silica tray that I ended up printing is very good, and I've been very happy with it. And the reason I'm looking these up here is because like those file names were weird. Beforehand, when we were going through the bamboo print history, it's easy for someone to like search those names. Like the names showed up as they do on Maker World. So this is the silica tray that I've settled on, and I'm very happy with it. I'm so glad that I've settled on this. I've made a small modification, which is that I used a modifier, and I got this idea from one of the other silica trays that I didn't end up printing or using. But I used a modifier just on the first little few layers. So it acts on the bottom of the silica tray, and the modifier sets top shell layers and bottom shell layers to 0, and it uses some infill. I believe it's honeycomb infill. And what this does is it makes the bottom like a mesh so that heat can get to the silica beads much more effectively. I've used this multiple times to dry silica beads, and it dries them very well. So in my like how to dry silica beads video, I compared filament dryer with microwave, and I kind of dismissed printer heat bed as like, oh, it'll be as bad as filament dryer, but it's not. A heat bed on a printer, especially an enclosed printer with active chamber heating like the Cheedy Q2, can dry silica incredibly effectively. This is another one of the videos that I'd love to get your thoughts on. I've done experiments, I have data to show you how much water the Cheedy heat bed removes versus microwave. I can make that video very quickly if you let me know that you're interested in it. Printed this in PA12CF, which has a heat deflection temperature of 140 degrees, depending on the load. So I've been able to dry beads at 120, which is the hottest the heat bed gets to, and it doesn't even soften. So very happy with this, but be careful with the temperatures depending on what you print it with. Don't print this in PLA and then go to 60, 70, 80, or it'll just melt. This is a headphone stand. I'll show this off in that desk upgrades video. I wouldn't print this again because it takes up a lot of desk space. I prefer the hook that hangs off of the edge of the desk and clamps on, which is this one. And we've already seen the file on printables. Wankel motor. Plug this into USB, and it's this little Wankel motor. Love this thing. You need like a few screws and a motor. It's very good. I would print this again. I made the mistake initially of printing it in some advanced nylon. I think it was PPACF, and everything shrank and no parts fit into each other, and like I wasted so much really expensive filament on that print. In the end, I printed it in carbon fiber PETG. I was worried about the same like shrinkage or something, but it ended up being dimensionally accurate. Everything fit really well, and it works. Now, box desiccant holder V2. Would print this again. This slots into the Cheedy box. The Cheedy box already has 2 things that hold little packets of desiccant, but I love things being like super dry. I want things to be as dry as possible. So this slots into there, meaning you can still have packets in those 2 holes, and it lets you have loose desiccant in there. And the really nice thing about it is my weird tiny beads don't fall out of the holes, so it works with any silica bead. Definitely would print again, and again, it's on Thingiverse. What is it about Cheedy owners like Thingiverse? That's like interesting. Yeah, you do need to print this with supports, unfortunately. I tried being fancy with my supports and trying to minimize it, but it was a bit of a nightmare. I had some failed prints. You have to print it in this orientation, so standing up, but with supports, supporting this thing. You don't need support for this huge mesh. The circles print completely fine. Have a look at the auto supports that your slicer recommends. If there's too much support, then paint it onto just these sections. But don't do just the tip, do it on the whole arm, like all the way to the top, and then it prints like really well. Next, we have this bistable switch from MakerWorld. I like this thing a lot. I would recommend it. I would print it again. I've printed this in different materials with different stiffnesses, and that's kind of fun. It gives you a feel for like how PLA is to flex as opposed to PETG, as opposed to PETG CF, as opposed to Nylon CF. So would print this again. Mini hex fidget. It's quite hard to loosen up these joints, but once you do it, it becomes fun, so would print again. Lots of PAHTCF parts. These are going to be mostly those things on printables that I've already talked about. I printed in PAHT just to stress my Q2, not because they had to be PAHT. Now, Lazy Tongs, I have to show you, this is one of my favorite prints of all time, just because they're so fun. These are definitely not functional. But look at this, and look at that. Look at that. Ooh. They get so much longer. Would print these again. They are a blast. Some people on MakerWorld say that they break in PLA, which is why I printed them in PETG CF. This is Bamboo Lab Brick Red PETG CF. It's very good. Another torture test. Capybara cell phone holder. This thing is funny. I would print it again if you're looking for a fun phone holder and you don't care that it's not adjustable. Look at that. How silly is that? How fun is that? Yeah, would print again. Balloon dog. I love that balloon dog. I printed it in marble PLA. So there's this contrast between this like very hard marble material that it looks like it's made out of versus a balloon dog. Would print again. I believe it was this one on MakerWorld. This is the counter that you can increment by pressing it. We've already seen it on MakerWorld. Aesthetic Nordic Oasters. I should say coasters. They're quite cool. I would print again, but they're quite small, so I can't use this enormous mug on them. But it's these things. They are perfectly nice if you only have small cups or you want like little tea cups or coffee cups. There's quite a lot of them. You don't need to print all 12. That's like way too many coasters. The coasters don't fit in this thing. I've only tried to print this thing once. I could have sworn it says no support needed, but this thing failed for me without support, so maybe you need to enable them. This is the top mount for the AMS2 Pro on the A1. Definitely would print again. I've got a video comparing the AMS2 Pro versus the AMS Lite. Watch that if you're trying to make that choice. One thing that made it an easy choice for me to upgrade is that you can also top mount the AMS2 Pro using this. I printed it in PETG CF. It's held up very well. It doesn't look like it's sagging. I hope it stays like that forever. So that thing is a fidget. You like click it and it's quite satisfying. I printed it in PPACF and it ended up being much too stiff. Obviously, like, you don't need me telling you this, but don't print like any clickers in PPACF. So would not print again, would pass in PPACF, but it's probably fun if you print it in a normal material like PLA. I can't find it. I've had a quick look for it, but I'll do my best to find it and include it in one of the collections, depending on which website I found it from, in the description below. What do you think of this video? So I made a video called Everything I Printed in My First Month of 3D Printing. People liked it, and I asked, like, would you like to see the same video for the whole year? And I think people said yes. Are you regretting your decision now you've had to sit through all of that? I would love to know what you think down below. Or if it was very helpful, if you liked it as much as the first one, I would love to hear that as well. Huge shout out to every supporter on Patreon and every channel member and anyone making their 3D printing purchases through my affiliate links. Huge thank you. Click here for a video that I think you'll like, and click here for a video that the algorithm thinks you'll like.